Her notebooks are still radioactive. Still, 130 years later, they're stored in lead-lined boxes at France's National Library, and if you want to look at them, you have to sign a waiver acknowledging the radiation risk. Marie Curie carried test tubes of radium in her pockets, kept them in her desk drawer because she liked how they glowed in the dark. Spent 4 years stirring massive vats of toxic pitchblende in a freezing shed, breathing fumes that were slowly destroying her bone marrow. And here's the thing. She knew. By the end, she absolutely knew what the radiation was doing to her body. But she couldn't stop. Pure Scorpio obsession. And wait till you see what her chart predicted about how her obsession would literally end her. But there's also this Pisces Moon placement that explains why her intuition about which compounds to pursue was basically psychic. The Venus aspect, that's what made her choose a partner who matched her intensity so perfectly that they became the first married couple to win a Nobel Prize together. So before we get into this, if you're obsessed with understanding historical figures through astrology, hit subscribe. And listen, I want to know, do you think Marie's Scorpio intensity made her a revolutionary scientist? Or did it just make her incapable of knowing when to stop? Would you want that level of obsession in your own chart, knowing it comes with the inability to quit, even when it's destroying you? Drop your take in the comments because I'm genuinely curious where you stand on this. So, Marie Curie, born Maria Skłodowska on November 7, 1867 in Warsaw, Poland. Scorpio sun. And when I tell you her chart is the blueprint for someone who will absolutely transform the world, but also work themselves to death in the process. Scorpio sun in the 9th house, that's the house of higher knowledge, philosophy, seeking truth. Scorpios don't do surface level anything. And when you put that Scorpio obsession in the 9th house, you get someone who needs to uncover the deepest mysteries of existence itself. She didn't just want to understand science. She wanted to crack open the atom and see what was hidden inside. Moon in Pisces in the 2nd house. Her emotional connection to her research was almost spiritual. That Pisces moon gave her this intuitive sense about which materials to study, which compounds would yield results. Capricorn Rising, the disciplined, serious, methodical exterior. People saw her as reserved, dignified, intensely focused. But underneath that Capricorn mask was pure Scorpio fire. And here's where it gets wild. She had a stellium in Scorpio. Venus, Mars, and Saturn all packed into Scorpio in the 10th house. The 10th house is career, public reputation, legacy. A Scorpio stellium there means her entire identity was fused with transformative work that would outlive her. This chart screams one thing: I will uncover what's hidden, even if it ends me. Spoiler, it did. Maria was the youngest of 5 kids, born into a family of teachers in Russian-occupied Poland, which was not exactly a great time to be Polish. Her father taught math and physics. Her mother ran a prestigious girls' school. Both were patriots who'd lost everything in Polish uprisings against Russian rule. Early Scorpio wounds, right there. Loss, oppression, the understanding that the world is brutal and you have to fight for everything. When Maria was 8, her oldest sister Zofia died of typhus. 2 years later, when she was 10, her mother died of tuberculosis. Scorpio learns about death early. And that 8th house Scorpio energy, it doesn't fear death. It becomes fascinated by it. It wants to understand transformation at the deepest level. After her mother died, Maria turned her back on religion entirely. Very Scorpio. No comfort in easy answers, no blind faith. If something's real, prove it. If it's not, burn it down. She was brilliant in school, prodigious memory, gold medal at graduation. From the Russian lycée at 16. But here's the thing, women couldn't attend university in Russian-controlled Warsaw. So she enrolled in the Flying University, an underground illegal education network that taught Polish scholarship in secret. Scorpio thrives in the forbidden, the hidden, the taboo. Of course, she was learning science in secret, but she wanted more. She wanted real university education. The Sorbonne in Paris accepted women, but her family had no money. Her father had lost his job for his Polish nationalist views. So Maria made a deal with her older sister Bronisława. Maria would work as a governess to fund Bronia's medical school in Paris. Then, once Bronia graduated and became a doctor, she'd help fund Maria's education. Capricorn Rising practicality. She worked for 6 years, teaching other people's children, living in freezing estates, reading physics and math textbooks alone at night because that Scorpio obsession doesn't sleep. In 1891, at 24, she finally moved to Paris, changed her name to Marie, enrolled at the Sorbonne. And here's where the Scorpio all-or-nothing energy really shows up. She lived in a 6th-floor garret, no heat. She wore all her clothes at once to stay warm. Sometimes she fainted from hunger because she was spending her food money on books. Oh, she studied so intensely she forgot to eat. Scorpio doesn't do balance. It's total immersion or nothing. She came in first place for her physics degree in 1893, second place for mathematics in 1894, and that spring, she met Pierre Curie. Pierre was 35. She was 27. He was already a respected physicist, known for his work on piezoelectricity and magnetism. They were introduced by a mutual colleague, Polish physicist Józef Wierusz Kowalski, who thought they'd work well together on a research project Marie was doing on magnetic properties of steel. She needed lab space. He had a laboratory. But the second they met, you could feel the Scorpio intensity. Pierre later said he was struck by her focus, her seriousness, the way she seemed slightly detached from everything except her work. That's the Capricorn Rising. But underneath, there was this meeting of minds that Scorpio craves. They started working together, talking for hours about science, about research, about what they wanted to discover, and Pierre fell completely. He proposed marriage that same year, 1894. Marie said no. Her plan was still to return to Poland to help her country, to honor her family, that Scorpio loyalty to her roots runs deep. But Pierre wrote to her all summer while she was back in Warsaw. And here's the Scorpio part. He didn't try to change her mind with grand gestures. He matched her intensity. He said, if Poland is where you need to be, I'll come to Poland. I'll teach French if I have to. I'll give up everything to be near you. That's what Scorpio responds to. Total commitment, all or nothing. So she came back. They married on July 25th, 1895. She wore a dark blue dress instead of white because she wanted to be able to wear it in the lab afterward. Practical Capricorn Rising meets Scorpio's refusal to waste time on meaningless tradition. Their honeymoon was a bicycle tour of the French countryside. And then they got to work. In 1896, physicist Henri Becquerel discovered that uranium emitted mysterious rays. Marie needed a topic for her doctoral thesis, and this is where that Scorpio 9th house placement activates. She didn't pick something safe. She picked the most dangerous, least understood, potentially transformative phenomenon in physics. She wanted to know what was happening inside the atom. If uranium could emit rays, could other elements do the same? She tested everything, and she found that thorium was also radioactive, but then she tested pitchblende, an ore that contained uranium. And the readings were insane. Way more radioactive than the uranium content alone could explain, which meant there had to be something else in there, an unknown element. September 1897, their first daughter, Irene, was born. Most women in 1897 would have stopped working. Marie was back in the lab within weeks. Scorpio doesn't stop for anything. That Capricorn Rising gives her this incredible discipline, this ability to compartmentalize, to show up and do the work no matter what. And the Pisces Moon. It gave her this intuitive sense about the research. She just knew which compounds to pursue, which methods would work. It was almost psychic. July 1898. She and Pierre announced the discovery of a new element, 400 times more radioactive than uranium. She named it polonium, after Poland. Scorpio never forgets where it came from, never forgets the wounds, the losses, the homeland under occupation. And then, December 1898. They announced a second element, even more radioactive than polonium. They named it radium. But here's where the Scorpio obsession becomes terrifying. To prove radium existed, to isolate it in pure form, she needed to process tons of pitchblende, literal tons. They were given a shed, a leaky, drafty, freezing shed with a dirt floor. No ventilation, no safety equipment because nobody understood radiation yet. And Marie, she spent the next 4 years in that shed, stirring massive cast iron vats of boiling pitchblende, 8 tons of ore to extract 1/10 of a gram of radium chloride. She did it by hand, Her hands were raw, scarred, constantly burned from the radioactive materials. Pierre developed lesions. They were both exhausted, constantly sick. Radiation poisoning, though they didn't fully understand it yet, but they couldn't stop. That Scorpio stellium in the 10th house, career consuming your entire existence, work becoming your identity. The obsession so complete that your own physical deterioration doesn't even register as a reason to quit. 1902, she finally isolated pure radium, determined its atomic weight. The achievement was staggering, and in 1903, she became the first woman to receive a doctorate in France. That same year, the Nobel Prize in Physics, shared with Pierre and Henri Becquerel for their work on radioactivity. Except the French Academy of Sciences had originally nominated only Pierre and Becquerel. They'd left Marie's name off entirely. Pierre found out and lost it, refused to accept unless Marie was included. They made her the first woman to win a Nobel Prize. But here's the thing about Scorpio. They don't do it for the recognition. They do it because they're compelled, because something inside them needs to transform, to uncover, to go deeper. The prize was almost irrelevant to Marie. She gave away most of the prize money, didn't patent the radium extraction process, even though she could have become insanely wealthy. She believed scientific knowledge belonged to humanity. Very 9th house, very Pisces Moon. The work itself was the point. And then, April 19th, 1906, Pierre was crossing Rue Dauphine, Paris, rainy day. He slipped on the wet street, fell under a horse-drawn wagon, the wheel crushed his skull. He died instantly. He was 46. And Marie, the grief was all-consuming. Scorpio doesn't do shallow emotion. When they love, it's total. When they lose, it's annihilation. She wrote in her journal that she wanted to scream, to die, to cease existing. But here's the Scorpio transformation. She channeled it into work. The Sorbonne offered her Pierre's professorship. She became the first female professor at the University of Paris. First lecture, the amphitheater was packed. Everyone expected some tribute to Pierre, some emotional speech. She walked in, opened her notes, and picked up the lecture exactly where Pierre had left off, like she was continuing his sentence. That's Scorpio. Death doesn't end the work. It transforms it, and Marie transformed her grief into an even more ferocious drive to complete what they'd started together. Second Nobel Prize, this time in chemistry, and this time hers alone, for isolating radium and polonium, and fundamentally changing our understanding of radioactive elements. She became the first person ever to win Nobel Prizes in 2 different sciences. Only person to this day. But 1911 was also the year of the scandal. Marie had fallen in love with Paul Langevin, a married physicist, former student of Pierre's. The affair became public. The French press went absolutely feral, called her a homewrecker, a foreign temptress corrupting French family values. The scandal was so intense that she almost didn't go to Stockholm to accept her second Nobel Prize. But here's where the Capricorn Rising dignity kicks in. She went. She accepted the prize, and she refused to apologize. Scorpio's sexual intensity combined with Scorpio's secretive nature. When it gets exposed, it's explosive, but Scorpio also refuses to be shamed. She weathered the storm and got back to work. During World War I, she saw soldiers dying because battlefield surgeons couldn't see where the shrapnel was lodged, where the bullets had gone, so she developed mobile X-ray units, little trucks equipped with X-ray machines and portable generators. They called them Pisces Curies. She trained 150 women to operate them, then learned to drive herself so she could take the machines to the front lines. She exposed herself to even more radiation. No protective equipment, no understanding yet of cumulative exposure. By this point, her hands were constantly inflamed. She had cataracts forming, ringing in her ears, constant exhaustion, but that Scorpio stellium. It doesn't quit, it works until the body fails. 1920, she was directing the Radium Institute in Paris, training a new generation of scientists. Her daughter Irene was following in her footsteps, working in the lab alongside her. In 1929, Marie made a second trip to America to raise funds for a radium research institute in Warsaw. She was world famous by then, the most celebrated woman in science. But her health was deteriorating rapidly. And here's where we see the ultimate Scorpio pattern: obsessive research, death-seeking behavior disguised as dedication. She'd spent decades handling the very substance that was destroying her cells. Transformation through crisis, Scorpio's domain. She was literally being transformed by the element she'd discovered. The irony is almost beautiful. Almost. Early 1934, she visited Poland for the last time. By then, she was working 16-hour days despite barely being able to stand. Scorpio doesn't know how to stop. That stellium in the 10th house made her work her entire identity. Without the research, who was she? July 4th, 1934. She died at a sanatorium in Passy, France. She was 66. The cause was aplastic anemia, a condition where your bone marrow stops producing blood cells. Caused by prolonged radiation exposure, her Scorpio chart had predicted everything. The obsessive research, that's the stellium. The transformation of science through uncovering hidden atomic secrets. That's Scorpio in the 9th house, even her death from her own discovery. Scorpio always transforms through crisis and death. She literally died from what she uncovered, but in doing so, she changed the world forever. Her research into radioactivity led directly to cancer treatments, to X-rays that save lives every single day, to nuclear medicine, to our entire understanding of atomic structure. She took death, radiation, the thing that ended her, and transformed it into healing. That's Scorpio at its finest, the phoenix rising, destruction and rebirth. When her body was exhumed in 1995 to be moved to the Pantheon, they found her coffin was lined with 2.5 millimeters of lead. She was the first woman interred there on her own merits, not as someone's wife or daughter, on her own achievements. Her notebooks are still radioactive. You still have to sign a waiver to see them. Her lab equipment, her cookbooks, her clothes, all still contaminated. 130 years later, her obsession is still dangerous. Compare her to other Scorpio scientists. Carl Sagan, also Scorpio, also obsessed with cosmic mysteries, also driven to uncover hidden truths about the universe. But Marie's chart had that stellium, that intensity multiplied. 3 planets in Scorpio all focused on career and public transformation, and that Capricorn Rising gave her the discipline to actually complete the obsessive work that Scorpio starts. A lot of Scorpios burn out. They go too hard, too fast, and flame out. But Capricorn Rising builds endurance. It shows up day after day. It processes 8 tons of pitchblende by hand because that's what the work requires. The Pisces Moon kept her emotionally connected to the research even when it was grueling. She felt it. She intuited which directions to pursue. And Scorpio doesn't fear the taboo, doesn't fear danger, doesn't fear death. She worked with materials that were destroying her and never flinched. The scandal with Langevin, very Scorpio. That sign loves intensely secretly, and when the secret gets exposed, it creates chaos. But Scorpio also has this incredible resilience. It doesn't break under public scrutiny. It just goes deeper underground and keeps working. Marie never apologized, never explained, never gave the press what they wanted. She just accepted her Nobel Prize and continued her research. That's peak Scorpio. You don't get to shame me. You don't get to stop me. I decide when I'm done. And spoiler, Scorpio is never done until death forces the issue. Her final years, she was barely functional, vision failing, hearing going, constantly exhausted. But she was still in the lab. Still training students, still pushing forward, because for Scorpio, especially Scorpio with that 10th house stellium, the work is everything. It's identity, it's purpose, it's the transformation they're here to enact. And here's the wildest part. She won Nobels in both physics and chemistry, life and death, the physical world and the chemical transformation of matter. Scorpio masters both. And her research into the hidden nature of atoms, like into what's happening inside at the level no one can see. That's pure Scorpio 9th house. The mysteries that lie beneath the surface, the transformation happening at the atomic level. She proved that atoms aren't static, aren't inert. Something is happening inside them. They're transforming, emitting energy, changing, just like Scorpio, always transforming, always changing, always seeking the deeper truth. She didn't just study radioactivity. She embodied it. Transformation at the cost of the physical body. Rebirth through destruction. Her legacy is massive. The Curie family has 5 Nobel Prizes total. Her daughter Irene won one in 1935 with her husband for discovering artificial radioactivity. Also died of radiation exposure, also a blood disease, in 1956. The obsession runs in the family, but Marie's impact goes beyond the prizes. She fundamentally changed how we understand matter, energy, the universe. She opened doors for women in science when those doors were welded shut. She proved that brilliance has no gender. And she did it all with this quiet, relentless Scorpio intensity. No fanfare, no self-promotion, just the work, the obsessive, all-consuming, ultimately fatal work. Her Pisces Moon made her humble, made her give away her prize money, refused to patent her discoveries, but that Scorpio stellium, it made her unstoppable, incorruptible, willing to sacrifice everything, including her own life, for the transformation she knew was possible. The cosmic irony is almost too perfect. She spent 66 years trying to understand transformation at the atomic level, trying to uncover the hidden forces that make matter change, that make energy release, that make elements decay and transform into something new. And in the process, she transformed herself, her cells, her bone marrow, her body, the radiation she carried in her pockets, that she stirred in vats, that she breathed in that freezing shed. It transformed her from the inside out. Scorpio doesn't just study transformation. Scorpio becomes the transformation, lives it, dies from it, and leaves behind a legacy that transforms everyone who comes after. That's what happens when a Scorpio stellium meets a ninth house. Sun meets a Capricorn Rising that refuses to quit. You get someone who changes the world but can't save themselves. Someone who brings light from darkness but burns out in the process. Someone who discovers healing through death. Marie Curie didn't just have a Scorpio chart. She lived every single aspect of it. The obsession, the secrecy, the taboo breaking, the death-rebirth cycle, the transformation of trauma into power, the refusal to stop even when stopping would save her life. And because of that, because she couldn't stop, wouldn't stop, didn't know how to stop, we have X-ray, we have cancer treatments, we have nuclear medicine, we have an understanding of the atom that changed everything. Her Scorpio intensity ended her, but it also gave the world tools to fight death, to heal, to transform suffering into hope. And honestly, I don't think she would have done it any other way.